So let's talk about Rings of Power season two. I got to ask, Charlie, um, how, we see a bit of a transformation for your character this season. How different is playing, it's Sauron, but how different is playing Halbrand from playing Anatar, Lord of Gifts? Does it feel like two different characters, or is it much, more subtle than that?
No, definitely. It is. I think internally the characters are one and the same, but the way that that internal world manifests externally is very different. They both seek the same thing. I guess Halbrand made a breakthrough at the end of the first season, which then I think gave him the inspiration for Anatar. But everything Anatar is for Celebrimbor. But I had to develop a different way of moving and a different way of speaking, which was really, really rewarding and fun as a performer to delve into that. And it was a slow process of developing it, and we changed some things along the way. But it was really, really rewarding.
Speaking of Celebrimbor, Charles, I've seen the first few episodes, and it's a really interesting arc and a really interesting performance. I'm wondering if you could talk about, obviously, Anatar has an effect on Celebrimbor. I'm wondering if you could talk about, like, in your performance, how much of it is Celebrimbor really fully believes that this guy's on the level versus how much is it like his own desire to make these rings, just allowing him to overlook all the red flags, so to speak.
I think the second one you mentioned of his desire is running concurrently to. I mean, I believe he is totally. Think about the red flags. You see, I don't think he sees that many red flags. He presents himself in this godlike form, in an extraordinary moment, surreal moment in episode 2. And why I asked myself, why would Celebrimbor be suspicious? I mean, it's a transcendental introduction and meeting, and he's totally bewitched and besotted and will be led by this being. So the red flags, I don't see them really. As we go into the relationship and into the season, red flags maybe start popping up here and there.
A bit of sus behavior deeper down the line.
Yeah, there is. But initially, he is totally bewitched, is the word. And he is his. He will go along with it. However, that's not to say he becomes his puppet, because he's not.
No,
because he maintains a lot of power himself, and that it becomes a working relationship. But yes, we get a little muddier as the story goes on.
Yeah, I love the part. This is in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler, but where you're basically like, let's make some rings for the men, and Celebrimbor is like, really, them? I don't think so. Charlie, I'm wondering, there's Tolkien leaves it up to interpretation a little bit whether Sauron is ever really, however briefly, repentant for whatever original evils he did, whether he is actually repentant or acting repentant because it's convenient. In your performance, how do you think about that when you're playing him? Does he actually have any good intentions, or is he just very, very sly?
Well, I think that's a question I grappled with a lot in the first season in particular, but then I had to revisit it in the prologue of this second season, because you have that moment with the character played by Nicholas Woodson and on the ship. And I kind of made a decision, but I've been quite specific in leaving it ambiguous, because I think Tolkien left it ambiguous, and I don't want to, I guess, put my own judgment on that, like in the public sphere. And I think that the thing that makes it really interesting is the ambiguity. Like, you can read the whole first season with Galadriel as genuine, but then you can watch it another way, from another perspective, and he's manipulating her the whole way. And I think if I know I have an idea of what I was doing, and I think that the answer actually that I can give is that I had to fully commit to the idea of repentance internally, because that is what Sauron would have done in order to deceive the best way possible. Whether or not he committed to the idea of repentance.
Very cool. Awesome. Thank you both for taking the time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much.
So I'm going to start by asking, Morfydd, we get Obviously, Galadriel gets Nenya, one of the rings in this season. Big, powerful ring really defines her future. Can you tell me about, they're not, Sauron technically didn't make them, so they don't have the same evil influence, but when your character gets the ring, does that alter your performance at all? Does it change her in how she acts, or is she pretty much still the Galadriel we saw in the first season?
So the rings are these new kind of art and science and magic that their power is unknown to anyone in Middle-earth. And they won't reveal their power simply. They're quite complex, and they're beings in themselves. And it's been really interesting
They're untested, aren't they?
Yeah, but also there's nothing... They won't give themselves away quickly, if that makes sense. You're not going to put a ring on and be like, oh, and it does this. It's a journey, and it's a magic that is kind of whirling and changing with Middle-earth. I mean, the darkness of Sauron coming back is affecting everything, and in Middle-earth, and the rings are part of Middle-earth. So.
Sam, I want to ask, I'm not an actor, so I don't understand what this challenge might be like, but I imagine it's got to be tricky coming into a role that's already been, kind of defined in a previous season, and especially one that's like this character who is not a simple hero or villain. He's much more kind of in the middle. Can you talk a little, was it a challenge trying to get into this character and, keep continuity with what came before and be true to where he's going?
Well, no, it wasn't actually. It was really, honestly, a pleasure. And I think that's because it was such a rich character that's been created by, the writers and by Joseph in season 1. And so it was, a real privilege to take on that character and see where the story takes him from there. So I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I've just loved every part of it.
Having gotten into the character, I'm kind of, like I said, he's not a clear hero or villain type, on a scale of like Frodo Baggins to Sauron. Where do you see him in terms of like the moral spectrum?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I mean, I don't think he thinks about the moral question. It's like a whatever it takes thing to, well, there's different aspects of it. There's whatever it takes to find a home for his children as he sees them, the Uruk. But also he is deeply kind of, obviously has some kind of mental and emotional scars from whatever he went through with Sauron and Morgoth before, as well as the physical scars. And I think he carries a lot of that and has, I think he's got a lot of issues.
He does have a lot of issues,
yeah.
I'd say.
And, but he's trying to, I think his actions are purely from his perspective, good for the good of his children.
Yeah, and he's frightening because, he feels like he has a worthy cause.
Yeah.
And he's organised.
It's very organised.
Terrifying, yeah.
Before I have to wrap, just last question for Morfydd. First season, Galadriel is like all consumed by searching for Sauron. Now she's found him and she's got, one of his rings on his finger. How different is her goal and her arc this season compared to last season?
I think she was very... there's something tragic about when you're truly sad or in deep, deep grief, that there's something selfish about it. And so she was consumed by her own pain. And now she's realized that makes her vulnerable. And so there's a desire to heal and a desire to not be destroyed. I mean, sometimes all you can do against someone who's deceived you or hurt you is to not let them destroy you, and that's kind of, but no, it's fun to play her in such a different space. He has turned everything upside down for her.
Well, on that cheery note.
Yeah. Well, we can say that hope is Sauron's worst enemy.
Yeah.
Hope you are well. We're going to talk Rings of Power Season 2. I'm going to start off by just kind of getting a vibe check on what's going on with the elves right now, because we're entering, like, we got the rings coming. This is a big, like, watershed moment for the elves. This is a little more for Ben, since you're the king and you're dealing with them, but how much does the tone around the elven communities change this season compared to season 1 with the introduction of the 3 rings?
Sure. There's a great Elvish word, which is grach, which basically it's kind of an Elvish swear, and the polite way to say it is, right. And I think that's a pretty good way to sum it up, which, it's like, grach. And yeah, in spite of our extensive wisdom and experience, evil just snuck right in there, didn't he? No, thanks to Galadriel, no, we're caught on the back foot, which is the perfect way to start a dramatic trajectory of the person you think that should be in control has lost it. Evil's back. It's like, what the grach? Grach.
I'm going to have to learn that word now.
God bless you.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
I sort of plays that joke the entire time. I was like,
waiting for it. Obviously, there's some big changes for your character as well, with Bronwyn not coming back. How much does her being gone alter the trajectory of your story in season 2 compared to where we left you in season 1?
I mean, I see that it's funny to talk about love in this way, because it alters it entirely, and at the same not at all, because it is just a continuation of the depth of the love that they have for each other. This is always this love story is always filled with a pull, a push and a pull, and it's just another stage of that. So the whether she is on screen or not on screen, her character, her energy, the love, the romance, the trust, the promises are in every single frame of the entirety of our story, both mine and Tyro's through the second season. So if anything, it gives it. I'm trying. This is a minefield. It's a minefield, but people will feel it. I'm just going to say that if you've ever been in love, you'll know what the hell is going on.
And you carry, people that you love mark you, and you carry those marks for.
Last question I'll ask, Ben. You get to you gave a little preview of your Elvish tongue a minute ago, but you get you get to drop a single in Quenya, I believe.
Sure.
Remix during the episode. What was that like for you? Obviously, you've been a fan of Tolkien for a long time. Did that feel like something? How was that moment for you?
I mean, those moments in a career come along once, twice, where you get to do all the things that you love and get the kind of support that I had. I mean, it's Bear McCreary's music. Leith McPherson is helping me not sound like a dope. And I'm on the set of Rings of Power doing one of the most quintessentially Elvish things that Tolkien created. Like, you just had to pinch yourself. It was humbling. Is the best word for it.
It will go down as one of the most iconic moments of the entirety of the series, as many seasons of it. It's great. I mean, you get to see it.
It's
already.
pretty cool.
I've seen the first 3 episodes, so yeah, I saw that bit.
Okay.
It was pretty good.
Oh, it is quite iconic.
Yes, I am looking forward to the full Benjamin Walker singing in Quenya album whenever that comes out.
I got a Christmas album I'm working on.
By the way.
No, I'm in Quenya.
Awesome. Thank you both for taking the time to talk to me today. I appreciate it. So I got to ask, Daniel, it feels like I've seen the first 3 episodes, and it feels like in like one episode you have more lines than you had in the entire first season because of the nature of the stranger. Can you talk about, like, does it feel like you're only now really getting to define the character now that he can talk and really be himself, or does it feel of a piece with what came before?
I think it feels really homogenous with the piece that came before, because I think he went through in season 1 was such deep layering of understanding about how relationships work. You know, he learned so much by watching the Harfoots. He learned about food, about, you know, love. He learned about friendship. He learned about fear. He learned about anger. You know, all these different things, and those things were non-verbal in that case. But it doesn't mean that they were unimportant. And I think laying those foundations correctly, hopefully, is going to come to his aid later on. He still makes a few mistakes in season 2, I'd say, for which he is very sorry. But
thank you.
Finally,
all I wanted was an apology.
Oh, you got it. I am sorry. Yeah, but I think yeah, it feels to me, it felt and has always felt continuous, and I'm really pleased that the way that the showrunners have written and the writers have obviously written the piece, it's made my job very easy to just move from one season to the next, hopefully fairly seamlessly.
I've got to wonder, you know, I've watched the first 3 episodes. You guys spend a lot of time in what the show suggests is a desert. I assume those were like on location shots. What was it like filming that? Because like watching it for me, it made me thirsty just watching all of that going on. Was it as rough as it seemed watching it as a viewer?
yes.
What about the difference between our recce week, you know, our rehearsal week, and the actual
Oh
week?
yeah, wow.
That was fascinating. We'd had a week before we actually started filming where we'd just gone to rehearse, and it was really cold. It was actually
cloudy.
really
Couldn't
cold
see
and
anything.
misty.
Yeah, we were up in the mist, weren't we, in the mountain?
Yeah, because he was so high up.
And they were terrified because they knew it had to be a desert.
Yeah, where it was really sunny.
And then the week of filming was so boiling hot. It was just like
clear skies.
it was like it worked for us. It was actually amazing. So for all the dust and the heat, it really was the best, especially for the Harfoots and for Nori. You know, she's never been this exposed, so it really worked to kind of channel all of those elements into the story. It was great.
Yeah, and it's so much fun working on location. I feel like the camaraderie, it really is sort of immediately there. And also you get to see so many beautiful places.
Yeah.
I probably never would have seen otherwise.
I like the idea that the location like lulled you into a false sense of security and then tricked you later.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the Harfoots like story this season, because it felt like they very much came to a turning point at the end of last season with just the decision to leave.
Yeah.
So besides, you know, simple survival at this point, what kind of challenges and decisions and arcs are they looking at as they go forward in joining the stranger on this journey?
I think for Nori, she's very aware at the end of season 1 that the journey she's about to embark on is going to be a challenging one and full of, you know, she doesn't have any expectations. And so, you know, the amazing thing about kind of being with the stranger is that she's helping him, but she's also then going to find out what her own purpose is. So this is completely unfamiliar terrain. She's never been this exposed. She's never been without her family before. So it's almost like, you know, someone when you first leave home, it is that exciting yet really overwhelming and nerve-wracking feeling for her. And you just see what happens when she encounters some really fun other characters, and that kind of furthers her along.
Yeah, I think there's a lovely sort of lots of individual growth storylines for the 3 of these characters, but they sort of do it side by side, and I think that's such a wonderful, lovely theme, I think, as well for them. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all for taking the time to talk to me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Hello.
Hi. So I want to ask first, one of the things that I find often trips up like more casual fans of Tolkien, particularly those who only know like the other adaptations and stuff, is what the rings actually do. Because they're not like, you know, they're not Green Lantern rings. They're somehow much more grand and also much more subtle than that. So I was wondering if you could tell me a bit about
Yes.
what the discussion was like when you were talking about how you were going to depict their influence and their abilities on screen in season 2.
Good question.
Excellent question.
Part part of the fun of season 2 is you're in the room where the decisions are made and where the rings are being built. However, you're also in the room of the people who put them on for the first time and don't know exactly what's going to happen. We sort of have been likening it to like Oppenheimer. You're dealing with this world-changing power, and no one knows exactly what it's going to do for good or ill. Maybe a little bit of both. And a big part of the season is watching how rings, change the way the elves see themselves, how it affects their world, and discovering new powers and abilities along the way. But also the dwarves, who are dealing with rings that Sauron was directly involved in their creation, and how does that affect people? And so I think, to your point, what is potentially, as you say, like a stumbling block, is that the rings do a lot of different things. But this season, actually, for fans and non-fans alike, you get to see for the first time, along with the characters, what they do. So hopefully it's a great entry point for people who maybe didn't quite understand the lore before.
So I know you're not going to tell me too much about this, but there's a dark wizard in this season, and that feels like on its face, a somewhat new concept based on what we know about wizards and Tolkien. Can you tell me at all anything about like what role he plays? What does dark wizard mean? Like fallen Maya? Like what are we dealing with?
Good question. I don't know that it's that new of a concept. We have seen throughout Tolkien that, powerful beings are tempted to evil. Gandalf will not carry the ring, for he fears, the evil it could do through him. Saruman turns to evil, believing that that's the best way to save the world, in whatever twisted logic he's come up with. So we know that good characters can turn to evil, and we know that even wizards can turn to the dark side, so to speak. And watching how that's going to play out with Ciarán Hinds is going to be, hopefully, a real thrill for people.
I think you just seeded several fan theories that will pop up on the next couple weeks.
Only too happy to do so.
I asked Charlie Vickers this as well, but I'm wondering your perspective. Tolkien leaves it very up to interpretation, whether or not Sauron is ever genuinely repentant for anything he does, or whether it's all part of his scheme. I was wondering, in your point of view and what you're positing in the show, do you find any of that is genuine, or is he just very, very good at playing the long game?
I'm speaking as a viewer right now. As a viewer, as a reader, as a member of the audience, and a fan of Middle-earth, I think he believes he's genuinely repentant.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say the same thing. I think he has moments of real regret. Moments. And then, there is an overriding narrative that exists for him that wins. But that's my own theory.
I think he's always on the hustle.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Awesome. Thank you both for taking the time to talk to me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.